Hello, class. Today, me and my partner Ron are going to talk about the historical background and influence of Jean-Jacques Rousseau.
Our story begins on June 28, 1712, in Geneva, Switzerland, where Rousseau was born. Unfortunately, his mother died in childbirth, forcing his father to raise him alone.
Rousseau's father taught Rousseau that his birthplace was a republic compared to the likes of Sparta or ancient Rome.
Rousseau's father was a really proud man himself, as he was married to someone of a higher level, as he was an ordinary watchmaker. Unfortunately, he got in trouble for brandishing a sword he was meant to wear, so he made the decision to flee Geneva to avoid imprisonment, leaving young Rousseau behind.
Rousseau then begrudgingly lived with his mother's family for 6 years, where he was constantly humiliated until he also fled from Geneva at the age of 16 to live the life of an adventurer and a Roman Catholic convert in the kingdom of Sardinia and France.
Rousseau's luck turned around as he was in Savoy. He met Madame de Warens, who would give him room and board, education, and a job. He ended up developing into a philosopher, a man of letters, and a musician.
Later on, Rousseau would meet Denis Diderot in Paris, and the two of them soon found themselves in a very successful circle of fellow philosophers who would produce the Encyclopédie, a book known for representing the thought of enlightenment. After about 7 years, Rousseau would find out that Diderot was imprisoned for irreligious writings. Rousseau would later write his first important piece of work called A Discourse on the Sciences and the Arts, in which he argued humans throughout history have been decaying. His work throughout his life would embody that people are good by nature and have been corrupted by society and civilization. Later on, Rousseau would publish his second discourse, which identifies two types of inequality, natural and artificial, the former being things like strength and intelligence, and the latter being an inequality that is societal, like wealth. It is worth mentioning that Rousseau's second discourse would excite revolutionaries such as Karl Marx and Vladimir Ilyich Lenin.
Rousseau would go on to publish a book called The Social Contract in 1762, where he argued that man is always in chains, and to combat that, society should generate a genuine social contract to remedy issues within itself. Rousseau also argued that there has to be a lawgiver who must have a great mind to draw up a constitution and system of laws.
Rousseau would later write a book called Emile, in which he talked about achieving happiness rather than about freedom and inequality. Rousseau would eventually take refuge in England under the philosopher David Hume, but quickly realized that philosophers, including Hume, were making fun of him, so he went back to France incognito.
The last 10 years of Rousseau's life was mostly spent writing autobiographies and responding to certain criticisms he received. He regained respect in France as he was living on the estate of great French noblemen. Rousseau eventually passed away in a nobleman's park in Ermenonville.
Jean-Jacques Rousseau has influenced our day-to-day lives by inspiring the French Revolution, which changed a future superpower of a country. His thoughts marked the end of the Age of Reason.
Rousseau inspired children to look for better education for their children. He furthered acceptable emotions past only friendship and love. He opened people's eyes to the beauties of nature and made liberty an object of almost unanimous aspiration.